All right, hey everybody, this is Brian and Rachel Goulet of GouletPens.com, and we're doing a couple things different today for this Q&A. Not only are we doing it together, but I thought we'd change the scenery a little bit. Got a recommendation from somebody that might be good to kind of keep things fresh.
Was your office a mess?
No, it's relatively clean.
Is that the real reason?
It's usually a mess, but I try to keep it somewhat clean these days. And no, that wasn't the reason why. It was literally just because, this is the 38th Q&A we've done, and I thought, we're doing it together.
I was like, 38 is just a random number.
What?
Celebrate 38.
Oh, I'm just saying, it's been a lot of them. We've been doing this for almost a year.
Hey, this is the July 4th edition.
Right.
There
So
you go.
We'll celebrate freedom by freeing ourselves from our normal space, and we'll get to do something a little different. I don't know. What the heck? It's worth a shot. So it's an open forum this week, so we just got a bunch of random questions. We actually got a ton of questions. We had so many questions last week. I carried them over into this week.
And then we got more questions.
I made the mistake of asking for more, and now I still have just as many.
It's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake. You're right.
Open forums are great. They're obviously popular.
They are, yeah. We get more questions with open forums than we do with kind of the brand focus ones. So, originally we had the open forum for the first, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever. And then it was like, we should do a little brand theme. So we kind of started alternating.
Well, it wasn't the brand theme.
Forth.
You had other topics for a while.
Oh, that's true. It was topics, and then we went to brand-centric. And, I kind of exhausted most of my obvious choices for whole Q&As as far as brand focus and stuff like that. So, we basically
Open's
said,
good. Why
not? Let's do open. And we were getting so many questions, okay, what the heck? We'll just keep going with that. So we'll be doing an open forum this week. We'll be doing one next week, too. So, all right, what have we been up to for the last week or so? We've been pretty busy. You especially.
I'm covering for some folks on vacation.
Yeah. She's got two key people that are gone this week.
They're each other's backups, and they're both gone.
And Rachel's
so I'm
the backup to the backup, and so you're having to cover for everybody.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy. Plus, Drew was sick a couple of days earlier this week, so you were really just having to be the catch-all for everybody.
That's all right. Plus all the cool stuff I'm working on.
Yes, of course. That cool stuff. Now, is it cool stuff that you're working on?
It's really cool stuff.
We've had some new products that have come in. We got Quiver pen holders that have come in. The Quiver nylon one, which I didn't even cover in the original video on
so
Quiver.
We didn't have it right away. It just came on Monday.
Yeah, so it's basically a ballistic nylon version of the same
double
pen holder.
I brought my coffee.
Oh yeah, you got to have your coffee. I already drank all mine, so I'm on water now. We got the TWSBI 580 All. That's pretty cool. So it's got a couple aluminum components in there. I got a video on that out earlier this week.
It'll look even cooler once the colored versions come out. I mean, the silver's nice. It's very classic.
It is, but it's not as obvious.
Yeah,
as
the
to
color
what
would be good.
Yeah. It'll be cool. Okay, we also have this cool thing we've been doing on the blog called Monday Matchups.
We've done 3 of them.
We've done 3 of them. Joe Olney is on our warehouse team here.
Joe O
on the blog. He wants to try to stay somewhat anonymous, but his bio is up on our website, so it's kind of not as anonymous as you might think.
He's got a professional art life outside of work, so he's trying to, figure out how to keep the two separate. But
he does, but he's really been enjoying getting to express his art here, and it's, he's been working here for a year, and we're just starting to tap into him as his talent to be useful with us, and I'm kicking myself.
No, he's been useful with us.
No, in that form, in the art producing stuff like that.
Right, so he's been a great warehouse employee.
Yeah, I'm kicking myself. He could have been doing this a year ago, and we never even thought to have him do that. So we're actually focusing a lot more now, not just on hey, this is Brian's videos and so on, but hey, we've got some really kind of talented folks on the Goulet team.
Why
don't we look to kind of utilize their strengths and get that out there.
We're all about the team anyway, so that makes sense.
Exactly. So that's one really kind of cool thing that we're moving in that direction. It's been really popular. So you'll see more of his stuff, more of the stuff from the rest of our team as well.
Getting some more of those environmental, photography shots, not just the standard on white that we do, but also some, creative settings.
Sarah is our new photographer. She's been here a month or so, and she's rocking it. She's gotten up to speed really quickly, doing really cool stuff. These
VCU art students, they're just...
Yeah, we're in Richmond, Virginia here, and VCU is an incredible arts program that's right in our town here, and we've found a couple of great folks from there, and we'll probably tap into that as a resource in the future too.
The other thing I did too, if you're an Inkdrop member, I did send out a survey to you, just trying to get some feedback on the Inkdrop program. We're coming up on 4 years that we've been doing it, and as we move forward towards this cool stuff I've been alluding to, it's an opportunity to improve upon the program from the infrastructure side, as well as making sure like we're sending out the colors and the brands and the right variety, the themes. After 4 years, it's been a little difficult to stay creative.
Well,
without repeating colors. We're starting to
It's been kind of a challenge to be like, okay, we want to see how long we can go without repeating colors. But now it's like, oh, you've got this cool idea for a theme. Oh, wait, we've used all these colors already.
Sometimes we accidentally repeated. That happened once.
Right.
And then we're kicking ourselves. Like this month, we're using a color we used just about 4 years ago. So it's like, okay, I know that there are some members who are members.
But we're finding that most people don't really care that much if we repeat.
Yeah.
If it's been more than a year.
A year or 2 years.
Because a lot of the sign-ups for Ink Drop are relatively new, within the last year or so, because people sign on, they sign
There
off,
are
drop
still
on,
some 4-year-old members.
Very few. Very few. But yeah.
So anyway, as we've grown and as the membership has grown, it's we just want to revisit. So if you are a member and you got that link to the survey, please go ahead and take that. It really helps us out.
We're just thinking through the program and saying, hey, this has been going for a while. What can we do to kind of keep things interesting, keep things fresh? So that's kind of what that was all about. And the last thing before we get into the questions is we have finalized our company values, mission statement, vision, purpose, all that. I'm like, I want to explode because I want to tell you
hint right
what
back
they
here.
are. Yeah. So we're going to have all of that publicized really soon, probably.
Like we're editing the videos and the graphics and everything.
Yeah, we've got it all finalized. We've got supporting copy finalized.
I need to actually create the webpage for it.
Right. We've got the webpage laid out how we want to do it. We need to actually create it and put the stuff in there. We've got some other neat little things we're going to pepper into it. We've got a video that's going to come out with it. So it's just wrapping everything up so that we can give it a proper presentation.
This feels like a Noodlers release. It's coming soon. It's coming soon. No, it really is.
3 to 6 weeks. 3
weeks.
Yeah. But no, that will be coming very, 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 very soon. I'm like plowing over people to make sure that it happens.
A little bit.
Yeah, but anyway, so
he means well.
Of course. Well, it's like we've gone through this whole process of like
I know.
over a year, and then like the last 2 months especially been really intense.
And now
for
it's
the whole
ready.
team
We just need to present it.
Yeah, I want to present it, so it'll be lots of good conversation going on about that when they come out. So anyway, but you're here for the random questions that we got. So
I am.
We got lots of good questions, and the first one we're going to start off is one that got a good number of likes on Facebook actually. Edgar H asked, "We already know Brian's 5 favorite fountain pen inks. What about Rachel's 5 favorite fountain pen inks? Rachel appears on scene and lets us know." Okay, well, here's Rachel.
They asked last week. I wasn't able to do it last week.
She wasn't here last week, so I put off the question. I think it got asked again.
It did. That's what I said. It can work this time, right?
Right. So you're right. Your Edgar, your persistence paid off. So Rachel.
It's like, well, now I have to do it.
Right, exactly. She was like, should I do? I don't know. I'm covering all these people this week, and I was like, Rachel, come on.
Here's the deal. I don't have 5. I'm having trouble narrowing it down.
Yeah.
And also, like, I kind of, I'm not going to say took a break from fountain pens for a while, but I hadn't had time to play with new colors as frequently as I would like. I'm starting to get back into it and starting to rediscover some old favorites, figure out some new ones. I have, like, my ink sample package, my staff picks or whatever on the website. I need to tweak a couple things, but it's pretty close. So these aren't in order, and these are more than 5. But these are just some of my...
9, actually.
No, it's 8. No, it is 9.
No, it's 9.
Shoot, okay.
Hey, you know what? We do what we want.
These are not in order. Diatramentis Mint Turquoise. It's a fabulous green blue. It's got great shading. It's just... And, of course, like, we're out of stock of it right now as I talk about it. Diatramentis is a little tough because, just a little behind the scenes, like, we order it directly from Germany. It can take 2 to 3 months for our shipments to arrive. And even then, like, we don't get the whole box at once. It comes, like, a week apart. So it's on order. But anyway, so, like, as talk about this great ink I love so much. We don't have it right now, but it should be arriving any day.
Well, people always want what they can't have, so,
There you go. Noodler's Bay State Blue. I love it. The color is worth the risk of staining. And guess what, guys? Bleach. It works.
Bleach cleans Bay State
Seriously.
Blue.
It's
Plus,
there's
Rachel doesn't clean her own pens. I do. She's never cleaned a pen before. I kid you not. She's like, "Oh, Brian, all my pens are dirty." And I'm like, "That's nice, dear."
That's honest truth. That he's not exaggerating. I think I tried once. I was like, no.
Well, here's how our dynamic goes. She does everything to keep this company running.
The bills.
She pays the bills. She does the payroll. She does all that stuff.
Make sure the website's
to make sure that your orders go out every day. I get to walk around and motivate people and talk about values.
He's more of a hands-on
and I
guy.
play with pens and I shoot fun videos and all that kind of stuff. I do a lot of other things too.
You can tell by how animated he is talking.
Right, I get really jazzed up. But you know what I mean? It's like she does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you don't see, that even most of our staff here doesn't see, to just keep things working. So, you know, to say like...
my dad's the exact same way.
Right,
I basically have like
yeah.
the same job my dad does. It's
well, you're like
crazy.
wired that way, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's fine, it's fine. So don't be like offended that she's like not using fountain pens.
No,
every day,
I do use fountain pens. Like I have pens inked up right now.
But if your pen is dirty, you will stop using it and you'll use another pen until I clean it. Yeah.
I'll just rotate for a while until like, oh, I'm out of clean pens. I switched to like a roller ball for a while.
Right.
Until I can get someone to clean my pens.
And then I'm like, Rachel, what are you doing? She's like, well, my pens are dirty. So I'm like, oh, okay. So I've got to go clean out 9 pens before you can use a pen again.
Well, the truth is, I don't like, I like switching colors. Otherwise, I would just refill from the same color.
Right.
But I just, I just use a sample, and then once the sample's gone, then I change colors.
You like the colors as evidenced by the fact you can't even choose your top 5. You chose 9.
Okay, I do have a bottle. The bottle I have 1 bottle. Maybe 2.
You do. No, you got a couple.
Well, I know I have one, and it's a Pelikan Edelstein Tourmaline, and that's one of my favorite colors, but I'm really sad because it was a limited edition color, and now it's gone.
Right.
So I have a bottle. I don't even think I've used it because I'm like scared to, which is hilarious because it's my favorite color.
Your favorite color, but you don't want to use it, so that you always have it.
But I know that if I use it, it'll be gone. I have a pink Vanishing Point from a couple years ago, too. I've never inked that up either. And the two would be perfect together.
They really would.
But I'm like scared.
Silly. It's silly.
It's weird.
Yeah.
So Edelstein Tourmaline is my favorite pink. I haven't quite found a good substitute yet. I'm experimenting. The Caran d'Ache Divine Pink is, I'm kind of digging that right now. But I really like pinks and
that
purples.
one wasn't even on your list. That's 10.
I know.
Okay, so 10. All right, so where did we even leave off here? We really
Bay
went on
State Blue, and then followed by is another high maintenance that you clean out.
We're only on number 2. We're only on the second ink.
I skipped around.
You did stick in
We need to flip our order.
there.
I had some notes. We need to flip the order.
Oh my gosh, this is only the first question. This is bad. We asked people about like doing tangents and stuff like that.
You're not letting me list my inks. You're the one going on the tangent.
I think I did cause that one though. You talked about Bay State Blue and then I talked about cleaning the pens. That's my fault. My bad. Tick one off for my box there. So
Noodler's Kung De Chang, another high maintenance ink, but I love the color. It's like that purple with the blue and you got the permanence.
One of the few permanent purples too.
It's a good flowing ink.
It's a really cool
one thing you should know about me is I love italics. I love broads. I like as much ink on the paper as possible.
Right.
I like shading. I like heavy saturation. I like good flow versus like the extra fine folks, which definitely have their place, but that's not me. I like a lot of ink. So,
which doesn't help that she uses her pens with these high flowing inks. So they run out of ink faster and need to be cleaned that much sooner. Sorry.
That's true. But just so you know about my favorite colors, it's helpful to know what pens I like them in. Diamine Apple Glory is a fantastic green shader. It's very bright, great shading. Diamine has a lot of shaders, and I'll be honest, like I was into Noodlers for a really long time, and I still am, but I overlooked a lot of Diamine colors in the process.
Right.
A lot of new ones have come out that I haven't tried myself yet, but every time I see Alex or someone else using it, like, that is fantastic shading. And
I
realized
like 10 new colors they've come out with have been awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, 20, because you've got like Oxblood in there, Red Dragon.
That's before
that's
the
like
20.
One of my favorite. No, that was part of the 20.
No, that was the 10 before the 20.
Are you sure?
When we first started carrying Diamine, there were
right.
70 colors, and then they came out with another 10.
I thought it was 80 when we first started.
No, it was 70 when we started. Trust me, I know these things.
She knows.
So then they came out with 10 that included Oxblood and Red Dragon and Syrah.
Right.
And like Amazing
Graphite
Amethyst and Sherwood Green and all that.
Right.
So that's like 71
Great
through
colors,
80.
yeah.
And then they released 5 a quarter over a year. So that's when we saw things like Aqua Lagoon
Ancient
Copper. We're totally getting on a tangent now.
Yeah,
and then
we
Salamander came out just like as a little 101.
This Q&A may end up just being one question.
There's 101 Diamine colors now. So forgive me if I haven't tried them all, but I want to try more Diamine. I want to revisit it. So Apple Glory. Speaking of shaders, Noodler's Apache Sunset is also on my list. I know it's on Brian's list too. Just, you can't beat the shading of the orange. It's incredible.
It's awesome.
Diatramentus Magenta Violet. It's a great purple that leans pink. My official favorite color is blue. My official favorite color is blue, but I really like purples and pinks, especially with ink. And you can see my my coffee mug. Actually, magenta violet's pretty close to this.
Yeah,
Maybe
it is.
A little pink,
It
but
really is.
it's good. Noodler's cactus fruit eel. I've liked that one for a very long time, and that all started with my sailor, the broad that didn't put out a lot of ink.
Yeah, that I talked about last time. I love the comment that I got on that when I talked about it last time. How, what was it? I said that was the scratchiest broad I've ever used, and that confused me. There's so many comments about that. That was
Yeah,
really good.
so I had the Sailor Pro Gear Slim pink, the Sapporo broad, and it wasn't a good flower. So I remember trying Cactus Fruit Eel because I like to match my pen. So, pink ink, pink pen, because it's lubricated, to see if that would help. And I did. So for a while, I had a bottle, and I would always refill from that bottle because it helped. We talked about tourmaline, and then the last honorable mention is Diamine Marine. It's also just a great ink that I think is on your list too.
It is on my list. I love that color.
Those are my 10 or more favorite inks. I've lost count at this point. We've talked about a whole bunch of other ones too.
Yep.
I'm Rachel, and I'm an inkaholic. I just go from sample to sample.
Yeah, we are definitely dealers hooked on our own product here. So.
And I don't clean my pens.
Yep, but that's okay. I'm actually.
That's what marriage is for, right? Finding a partner who balances you out.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Okay, so I have this alarm set because we've got a phone conference call to do
in 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes that we've got to prepare for.
And we only got through one question.
I thought we'd get through more than one question before we do that, but I have 22 questions lined up, and that was only about half of what we received. So you know what? We're going to take a little break.
We might not get through all the questions you laid out.
Probably
and then
not.
We'll resume next week.
Probably not. So what we'll do...
This is what you guys asked for me. This is what happens.
Well, you know what? I think...
I bring out his tangents.
I think the dynamic that we have will cover over the sins of not answering all the questions. Because we weren't going to answer them all anyway. You know what I mean? So...
That sounds awful.
I'm just saying, back in the early days when Q&A wasn't as big a deal, I'd get 9 questions, and that was the whole thing.
You make it sound like it's such a now that I'm a big deal.
No. Oh gosh, no, it's not like that at all. No, please. Okay, no, it's sorry, it's not like that. But I mean, before we were getting as many questions, before people really understood kind of what was going on with Q&A. But now it's
So now we're going to take a break so that we can do that phone call.
We are going to do that. We're already 1 minute into our 10 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and stop it. And when we come back, I think we should switch seats, because that was another piece of feedback we got, is you always sit on my right.
I do.
And I just think we should switch it up and see what happens. Maybe we'll answer the questions faster if we switch seats. Or maybe we'll answer them slower. Maybe we'll be on more tangents if I'm on the right and you're on the left.
I don't know. Be right back.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Yeah, we're back. And we switched seats.
Woo!
We actually remembered. Phone call went really well. We're happy about that. We'll get all into it yet, but,
Cool stuff's happening, guys.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
Yes. So,
all right, question number 2.
I was just thinking, before we get into the question.
What?
I was just thinking, this is very reminiscent of, our old Right Time videos.
I know.
Back
that
on the
must
couch.
be why people like it so much.
I think so.
You want to do our joint Q&As here from now on?
I mean, I think
I'm not
it's
saying
cool.
I can do every Q&A. Sometimes I can't.
No,
maybe the ones you do by yourself, you do in your office. And the ones we do together, we do a little home scene.
I don't know. Maybe we'll just switch it up. Switch up locations. I don't
We'll
know.
surprise you. Maybe we'll do it outside.
Yeah. I don't know.
Or not. It's hot outside.
It is pretty hot. It's
maybe in the fall.
It's 95 today. Okay, anyway.
Hence the tank top.
So, all right. Now, we promise we're going to answer questions faster than one every 20 minutes.
Okay, number 2.
Number 2. Okay, this is a interesting one.
Oh, it's a multi-part question.
It's a multi-part, yeah, so it'll take 40 minutes. No, Saul H. on Facebook said, I have a multi-part question for the next Q&A. Number 1, any chance of getting more of Pilot's offerings here in the U.S.? For example, the Custom Heritage 91, Custom Heritage 912, the Elite 95S, or others that seem to be for sale in Japan, but not here.
Do we want to answer this first?
Sure.
The answer is absolutely yes. We've had some fantastic talks with pilots. They're very receptive to what we have to say.
Yeah.
Some of these are already in the works. Others we were able to say, hey, you should really do this.
Yeah.
The Elite 95S, that will be here. It's going to be called the E95S in the U.S. It's interesting when you have a product in Japan and then they bring it to the U.S. market. They have to be concerned with U.S. copyrights and stuff.
Yeah.
So there was already a pen called the Elite. They didn't want to take that name.
Can't
The
remember
same
what
thing
brand that
happened.
was, yeah.
I don't remember. The same thing happened with the Stella when it became the Stargazer. Some copyright stuff. So it'll be the E95S. whatever. Coming out in September. So we'll definitely have that. I don't know if we have a pre-order in yet or not, but we're definitely planning on carrying it. That's pretty cool. A little pocket pen, extra fine nib.
That is a cool pen.
The Kakuno is in the works. I don't know that we'll see
That's
it by
the one with the smiley face on the nib?
Yeah, then the new version has a winky smiley face. It's super cute.
I haven't seen that one.
It makes me smile.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That's a fun pen.
So, and that's a fantastic beginner pen. It's kind of like in line price-wise with the Metropolitan.
Small.
A little bit.
It's very small.
It's small.
Yeah.
That is in the works for probably early 2015. By the holidays would be fantastic, but I don't want to put any commitments in Pilot USA's mouth. But they've been working on it. Maybe making some color changes when it gets introduced here in the U.S.
Yeah.
But they're definitely receptive to it. What happened is actually it was so popular it sold out in Japan, which never happens. I think that's why they switched the colors up or something. But basically they didn't have enough to give the U.S. So it takes a lot of time.
They don't keep huge inventories.
Japan doesn't keep inventory.
They turn it over fairly quickly, just in time. Inventory kind of thing. Yes, that's part of the reason why Falcons for a long time were just gone. You couldn't find them anywhere.
Yeah.
Because some videos went viral and stuff on YouTube and
some Russian hacker.
Yeah, like some Russian hacker apparently spontaneously made this one YouTube video viral on the Falcon.
That's a rumor on the street.
It cleared it. I mean, yeah, I don't know
anyway,
if that's actually true.
That's total tangent. The Decimo is one that we're working to bring in, and we are talking about some of the custom lines with some of the specialty nibs, like the FA and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not final yet. We're waiting on some pricing and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But we're hoping by this fall to have some of those available, and the rest will follow early 2015. So they're definitely receptive to our feedback.
It didn't used to be, back when we first started carrying Pilot, they were not really that into online retailers. They really kind of bent their own rules a little bit by letting us carry their stuff. But we were like, come on, please, we're not just your regular online retailer. We're not your, Amazon price slashing type online retailer.
That's
we're really doing business differently.
We're value add company, customer service.
I think we've proven that over the last 3 years that we've had Pilot, and now it's to the point where they're
and our sales have proven it too.
Yeah, and it's to the point where they're like, okay, you guys kind of know what you're doing,
and we're so in touch with our customers, so we're able to pass your feedback up. So keep giving us these suggestions because if we say, hey, there's all these people out there that want this particular color or nib or thing. Nothing's off the table. There's negotiations that have to happen, and there's lead times. I think it's 90 days to get stuff in. But still, they're very receptive to it, and I'm super excited because I've been pushing for some of these for a long time.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to take all the credit, but fine Metropolitans.
We definitely.
I push.
Well,
really
we told
those.
You guys as soon as we heard that. As soon as we saw the Metropolitan,
I'm not going to take all the credit, but I really influenced it.
Well, as soon as we saw the Metropolitan, we saw that it was the same nib that was on the Prera and stuff like that. We were like, they can make a fine Metropolitan happen. We were like, come on, and so we were advocating for that for a long time.
They're like, do you think it'd be popular? It's like, yes, this is why people love Japanese pens. You get the super fine nib. So we're working on some other stuff too.
It's not that they're out of touch. It's that it's complicated web with worldwide distribution.
There's minimum purchases that have to be placed, so they have to make sure they can sell 1,000 of something or 3,000 or I don't know, whatever it is.
I've come to appreciate kind of the manufacturing distributing side of this business so much more the more we've talked and built relationships with our manufacturers.
Now we understand why there's out of stocks and how things happen.
So we're not just like, why isn't this available? We're like, hey, let's partner up here. What can we do to help make your guys' lives easier? And so we're really trying to work all around with you as a customer, with them as a manufacturer, and try to advocate for the best situation for everybody. And we've had some good success doing that. So that's a really enjoyable part of the business for us at this point.
So the answer is yes, there's stuff in the works. Not everything will come over, but if you guys keep asking for stuff, I can pass that up and kind of, gather up that feedback, and we can influence it.
Yes.
So keep pressing on.
And that actually leads nicely into the next question, which is any idea why the Pilot pens that are for sale in the U.S. are so much more expensive sometimes here than overseas?
Sometimes.
The Stargazer is $152 here in the U.S., but the Japanese equivalent, the Stella 90S, can be found on Amazon or eBay, often for $100 less. Same for the custom.
Under 100, not 100
Sorry,
less.
under 100. Yeah, sorry. Same for the Custom Heritage 92. Seems to be about $100 cheaper if ordered through Japan rather than Pilot USA.
So There's some interesting things happening there. First of all, any pen bought through a U.S. retailer is going through the U.S. distributor, Pilot USA.
Right.
They have a massive warehouse, and they, and it's not just the fountain pens. They do like all the G2s that you see at Target, and every rollerball ballpoint pen that Pilot makes. It's all going through them. If you're buying through the U.S., and I'm not saying the price is always justified. This is really a personal decision. But the warranty goes through Pilot USA. So if you have any problem with your pen, you go through your retailer, whether it's us or someone else, we can help you, whether it's through us or direct you to that way. Pilot USA, all the warranty issues will be handled. You don't have to send it to Japan. You don't, have to worry about that. So there are some distributor costs and things that are adding to that price by the time it gets to a U.S. retailer. There's import costs, so like the shipping to, get all these things into the warehouse, all the people along the way, the marketing teams, the packaging, all the things that come together. So, there's little markups along the way. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. One word of caution when buying directly from Japan is not everyone is an authorized retailer. What's happening is you can get a lot of these pens at a lot of Japanese stores for very low prices because they buy directly from the manufacturer. And
it's in Japan. There's no export-import cost. No
right. It's as low as it's going to get. Same way as Noodlers is the cheapest in the U.S. versus other countries.
Right.
Some of these online sellers, whether it's eBay or Amazon or other sites, they're not actually buying it directly from Pilot Japan. They're buying it through, they get an order, then they go to their local store and buy it, and they don't really have, high markups or anything. They're basically, sometimes they sell below cost, which I don't understand how that math works. But they're actually not able to service your pen if you have any problems.
Right.
They might try to pass you off to Pilot Japan, but if you actually, if you have to go that route and they trace where you bought it from, the fact that you're not buying it from an authorized retailer can make that a little more difficult. So if you're spending upwards of $100 for a pen, you just, I don't know, I would say make sure you can get it serviced.
When it's that big of a price discrepancy, I'll be the first one to say, boy, that is tempting. I'm not going to lie, that's tempting.
And I'm not, and I preface that not all sellers are that way. Some are authorized retailers.
Right.
There shouldn't be a massive price discrepancy. If there is, they might not be as legit. And
it's a kind of thing, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
And I've seen,
and this isn't just Pilot. This has happened with a lot of other brands.
I've seen some pens come up where the description's kind of shady, and it actually turns out it's a steel nib instead of a gold nib, and that's part of the price difference. It doesn't happen all the time. So all I will say is, and of course we're speaking with complete bias as U.S. authorized retailers, but just think about after sales support. So, first of all, making sure it's authentic. It's, all the original packaging, everything like that. So if you buy from an authorized retailer, you're getting the real legit thing. And more importantly, the post-sale support. So if you have any problems with your pen, if it's defective, if you lose part, whatever, you have the appropriate channels to get the service that you deserve with what you're paying for these things.
Well, and then, on a whole other kind of level, what we're doing literally right now, we're not getting paid to shoot Q&A. You know what I mean? We're doing this because our company is successful and we have a team of people that can be shipping your orders that we pay and pay well to do what they do because they're really good, so that we can sit here and talk to you. You know what I mean? So that stuff doesn't just come out of thin air.
It's all part of the pricing.
So it's a kind of thing
and the quick shipping.
I completely understand if you're looking at it and you're saying, look, it's just too big of a price difference. I want this pen. I'm going to go buy it wherever it's cheapest. I know that there's a certain percentage of the population that it just doesn't matter. They're just going to go do that.
And that's okay.
That's okay. I get it.
You're probably going to get a great pen. The likelihood of you having issues is pretty low.
Right.
But,
and we communicate this back up to Pilot. We say, look, there's this issue over here, across countries and all that stuff. We can't successfully carry. There's a reason why we don't sell a lot of pens. Because we look at it, and there's certain pens and their prices are so low elsewhere, we just can't carry
I've seen some that are selling it. They're selling it for below the U.S. wholesale cost. And I'm just like,
what ends up happening with those types of products is we can't justify our spending the time to learn them, shoot videos on them, educate you, service them, etc. So we just don't do anything with them. So see, that's kind of what ends up happening in the long term. Is in the short term, somebody drops the price. Okay, that's great. Everybody gets a deal and gets all excited. But then the people that are really putting in, the retailers that really are trying to add value and justify that markup, which markup's got a really bad connotation to it. But markup basically means you're paying people to help you. You know what I mean? But if you're not supporting the retailers who are really good at what they do and provide that level of service, and you're supporting people that are operating on slim margins and doing kind of gray market stuff.
Like we're going a little ranty here.
We are going, well, this is a very personal thing for us, you know, because we deal with this, you know, on behind the scenes stuff a lot. So it's a kind of thing like if you really believe in what we're doing, you're going to support us, and that's great. If you know are looking to get a better price and you don't see the value in what we're doing for the price,
that's okay.
Buy elsewhere. Like we're not trying to say
it's
like
America,
you should buy
freedom.
from us, you know, but we're just trying to give you the whole story, give you the information so that you can kind of just have a better understanding of what you're actually paying for when you buy these products.
Why are the prices higher? Now you know a little more.
So that's kind of the behind the scenes stuff, but anyway, it's very easy for us to fall down a rabbit hole with that stuff and get really, you know, personally
and there are
whatever about
good
it.
other sellers out there. We're not saying we're the only ones.
Oh, of course,
but
yeah.
you know, just do your homework.
Yeah, and we're not trying to gouge anybody either. You know, it's not like we're so high and mighty we think we're the best.
Products are going to be cheaper in Japan because there aren't the import costs to bring it over to the U.S. before it's sold. Again, same thing with Noodlers and Private Reserve.
Right.
It's going to be cheaper where it's manufactured versus the import costs.
That's one challenge that I think...
Diamine is way cheaper in the U.K. than it is here.
Yeah,
so if you're in
absolutely.
Europe, buy it from the U.K.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But anyway.
If price matters.
Okay, so that was like 10, 15 minutes on that question.
Goodness.
But okay, I promise the rest of them will go faster.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Bing, bang, bong.
Let's do it. Carlos Q on Facebook. Hello, Brian and Rachel. I was just wondering if you're planning in the near future to work on another color of Noodler's ink, just like you did with Liberty's Elysium. Thanks so much for all you do and your great work and teaching us so many things. Cool.
Yeah, we have a couple ideas out with Nathan. He's been pretty busy with this pen called the Naponzit. You may have heard of it. It's been in the works for a while. It's basically a
4 years.
A flexible music nib pen that'll be ebonite, acrylic, all this good stuff. He's actually
We're told it's really close.
We've been told that about no, like he's literally like tuning the nibs now, like prepping them. So it is close. It will probably be out this summer. I'd be shocked if it. Well, I wouldn't be shocked, but I'm not going to be shocked at anything at this point.
Yeah.
But we've kind of put our new exclusive ink on hold while he gets those pens ready. He's working on a backlog of other ink. You know, I just got like a shipping notice, a bunch of stuff's on the way. So he's a one-man show. He's got a little bit of help, but it's really just him. So he has help
on the manufacturing side of his pens and stuff, but as far as ink goes, I'm pretty sure he's just flying solo.
I think he might have a little assistant now.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
His girlfriend helps too.
Oh, well.
Anyway.
I think she does some artwork maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, so we have some ideas out to him. We haven't gotten the samples yet. But if you have, and see, this is actually the challenge. Like, we want to do more, but then coming up with like, well, what color should we do? It's like, I don't know. There's so many good ones out there already. Mm-hmm. If there's a specific color you want to see and a specific property, let us know, because that all we need to do is say, like, Nathan, we want a bulletproof green that XYZ. I don't know. You know, whatever it is.
Right, yeah.
Liberty's Elysium was like, we want a true blue that is highly waterproof. Like, that's how Liberty's came out.
And
Purple Heart was a lubricated purple.
Yeah, like sometimes there's limitations where he's like, yeah, that's just physically not possible. And we're like, oh.
Right,
well,
it's like a trade-off, one or the other.
Yeah.
Like quick drying and permanency and or things like that. So in the works, don't have anything to share yet, but we would love your ideas.
Yeah, but it's a dance for us because we want him to do cool stuff, but at the same time, like, he's one man. He literally sleeps like 4 hours a night and drinks like this special kind of coffee that has 3 times the caffeine and stuff like that. Like, that's why he's shaking in his videos. It's because of his caffeine and lack of sleep. But like, he's literally maxed out. So like, for us to ask him to develop anything, there's a trade-off. Pens aren't going to come, or other ink's not going to get made. So
okay, we got to keep moving.
Okay. All right.
3 questions in.
All right.
Number 4.
At WilsonBT34 on Twitter. My Lamy Studios nib squeaks with Noodler's black. Will a lubricated ink curtail the squeaking problem? Any suggestions?
Sometimes nibs squeak.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's the nib and not the pen. Like, I know, man, we had a problem. I don't even think we carry this anymore, but the broad nib Pilot Metal Falcon.
Yeah.
Had an issue with squeaking. Like, half the nib squeaked.
Yeah.
Just the broad.
No idea
why. Honing it helps with that. So using a little bit of Mylar paper, micromesh, doing some figure eights on that. I've got some videos on that. That helps. Helps a lot.
What about a lubricated ink?
Lubricated ink? I don't know. It might do it. It depends on how bad the squeak is and stuff like that.
What causes a squeak?
I imagine it has to do with the nib, how the nib's ground, and it's just like, you know, the squeaking has to do with like the nib that's like shaking, and so it's kind of like a resonance frequency kind of thing. So I think like if the nib's ground in such a way that it's causing it to kind of like resonate and cause this squeak. So that's where honing it will knock that kind of friction away, and will keep it from resonating. I believe, you know, I'm not a nibmeister or whatever, but I think that's the thing. So try changing the ink if you have some other inks. Try the lubricated ink. We got samples, you know, so it's relatively...
Now let's try a different nib. If it's a studio, then, you know, interchangeable
That's true.
nibs.
And check the alignment on the tines. Maybe that could do it too. I honestly haven't heard that being that much an issue with Lamy nibs before.
No. Well,
so that's
they
kind of a
didn't,
new
they
one
didn't
for
say
me.
what size they're using.
Right,
so
you didn't say what size. So that's just some stuff to look into there.
Number 5.
Yep. Scott R. on Facebook. Ink question. I have a bottle of the pre-formulation of J Herbin 1670 Rouge Hematite.
Pre-reformulation.
What did I say?
Pre-formulation.
Pre-formulation? Boy, that would be interesting.
Pre-reformulation.
Pre-reformulation. So what, if any, special precautions or cleaning should I use with this ink?
Because the older formulations have had some issues with clogging because of the high content of like the gold pigments in it.
Yeah. For me, I haven't seen as much an issue with clogging when you're using it regularly. It's more if you let the pen, if you let it sit for a while, it kind of dries out. Yeah, it's just. But the thing is, it doesn't like it crusts up on the nib, right? So you like this,
it can
the
clog your
pigmented
feed
kind of
too.
stuff. Yeah, it can. But that's if you let it like really dry out.
If it sits for a long time. So,
but it's pretty water soluble. So like as soon as you clean it, it cleans right up.
Yeah.
So I personally haven't seen it causing any long-term issues.
Oh, I've never seen any long-term issues.
But the label they put on those bottles makes it sound like your pen's going to explode if you put the ink in it. Like they're really harsh language in there.
You just don't want to leave it in your pen for like a year.
Well, I mean, even if you do, I think it would clean up okay.
It would take a lot of work, but it could.
It would, but yeah, I mean, it looks worse than it is. Its bark is worse than
might be
its
some
bite.
light staining if you leave it there too long.
Yeah, so cleaning it up definitely helps. But you know, I have yet to put the we just got the newly formulated stuff in, what, a week and a half ago?
A couple weeks ago.
I have yet to put it in a pen and leave it to see if it like dries up or crusts up any worse. Yeah, I haven't had that kind of time. But
Number 6.
Yeah. All right, Scott R. on Facebook. We all know...
Same person.
Yeah, same Scott. Scott had a lot of questions this week. We all know about quill pens in the days of the founders, but what kind of pen would Lincoln and the Civil War generation have used?
Because it's July 4th.
Right. Were fountain pens in use then? I'll be the first to say I'm not like a fountain pen history buff, okay? So I had to do a little bit of research, and I consulted, you know, the almighty Wikipedia and some other sites. So take everything I'm saying here with a grain of salt. I am not a historian. So other people probably know more than me. But if you don't know anything, maybe I won't do more harm than good. But anyway, it's hard to say exactly what they would have used at that time, because it seems that fountain pens were starting to come into usage around the time of the Civil War, around the mid to late 1800s. They weren't really being mass-produced until kind of the late 1800s. So I don't know if somebody of President Lincoln's stature would have preferred a fountain pen. I would assume that he would have had access to a fountain pen had he really wanted one, being the president and all. But it's hard to say what would have been in popular favor around that time. Somebody else may be able to dig a little deeper and see.
Hey, if you know,
more specifically,
share in the comments.
Yeah. That would be kind of a neat, but that's kind of a neat question, and it caused me to look a little bit more into the history of the fountain pen. But anyway, Bianca N. Bianca N on Facebook, can you recommend a sketchbook for drawing with my fountain pen? I'm an illustrator and love to sketch concept art in my sketchbooks, but get a lot of bleed through. Thanks. Yeah, so when you're using a sketchbook, you basically want the thicker the paper, the better when it comes to bleed through. Especially a lot of people that are doing like mixed media, watercolor washing, that kind of stuff. That can really...
Stillman and Burn's really good.
Well, the first thing I want to say is there are a lot of art notebooks and stuff out there that we don't know. Like, we're not really heavy into the art crowd. We have some artists who are into our stuff. But we're definitely not like an art company.
At this time. I mean, who knows where the future's going to go?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that we're going to get into that anytime soon.
No,
like, that's not really our focus. But the paper that we do know is Stillman and Burn, and that's because of people like Jamie Grossman from Hudson Valley Sketches and some other, you know, watercolor wash people, like mixed media people who've gotten really into the ink washing. They really touted Stillman & Byrne as a great company for that type of thing. And you know, Joe, who's been doing some work for us, we mentioned him earlier, he has been using Stillman & Byrne he literally had kind of this exact same question. He's like, I really need like a sketchbook to be able to sketch out raw ideas.
We were using like Rhodia plain pads.
Yeah,
and they
but
were okay,
but he needed some others. Well, I think he had he had some other art notebooks and stuff that he was using.
Well, he
but
started
it's different with pencils and chalk and stuff like that.
Yeah, he started doing some washes.
Right. So he was getting more into the ink thing, and so that's where we kind of pointed him, and he's been using that pretty successfully. I think he's using the Zeta. I think that's what he's using right now.
Zeta's very popular.
Yeah. So look into that.
Speaking of, number 8.
So that leads nicely into Jessica O's question from Facebook. Can we see a sped up video of Joe doing his beautiful fountain pen sketches? I'm very curious of the technique with the shading, texture, and smudging. Yeah, I kind of put the bug in Joe's ear. I know he's kind of like, he's a little more of a private guy, so I don't know how much he's going to like get in front of the camera at all.
Maybe his hands.
But I planted the bug and said, hey, somebody's been asking about showing a little bit more. So he was like, oh, wow, that's kind of neat. Okay, so I think he's like thinking about it.
I know he uses the brush doing some
he does,
like water washing.
He definitely uses a brush. Yeah. And
couple brushes.
Yeah, and I know like to sometimes to like rough out some of his sketches, he'll use like a drafting pen or something like that, you know, that's a little more precise than the fountain pen or whatever. He's got kind of an artillery of tools. All the artists that I know, they have like their own artillery of tools, some of which are like altered and handmade and stuff like that. Anyway, so we'll look into that. That's kind of cool.
Number 9.
All right, Matthew F. on Facebook. Do gold nibs wear out faster because they're softer metal? More specifically, what kind of life expectancy would a Pilot Falcon soft fine nib have? I know it's a broad question, but I'm more or less wondering if they're known to have shorter lifespan. Happy 4th to all at Goulet.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew. Okay, so you're asking about gold nibs versus stainless steel is the other main. I mean, there's some like titanium nibs and stuff, but those are not very common. It's basically gold or stainless steel. Yes, stainless steel is harder, but usually the part that's going to wear out on a nib is the tipping, because that's what's got all the friction from writing on the paper. And that tipping is generally the same or similar enough.
Iridium.
It's some iridium alloy, some harder metal that's even harder than stainless steel. If you were using an untipped gold nib, that thing would wear away in like a month. Like it would be gone, because it's just gold is too soft. Stainless steel would wear away in like a year or two, you know, without tipping. So really it's more the tipping itself, but if you're talking about like wearing out in terms of the nib itself and like
times rubbing together, if you're flexing.
Yeah, more the flexing probably. If you write with a really heavy hand, I've got a fairly heavy hand. I've got my Pilot Custom 74 that I've been using for 3 years now. That's got a gold nib on it, 14 karat nib.
Rhodium plated.
Rhodium plated, but it's a gold nib, and it now writes just a little bit broader than it used to when I first got it. I've got a heavy hand. I've used that pen a lot.
Yeah.
And I would consider it breaking it in. I haven't broken it, but it's broken in. You know what I mean? Like it suits my writing style. So as far as life expectancy, I mean, geez.
If you don't have a heavy hand, I don't think
there's vintage pens that have been around for 100+ years that have gold nibs that are still writing perfectly
Sometimes
fine.
they need to be retipped.
Sometimes they need some work. Sometimes they need retipping or need to be
I wouldn't worry about it should wear out it would be years.
Yeah, it's going to be a really long time if you're treating it right and using it properly, not dropping it and that kind of stuff. All right.
Number 10.
Heath C. on Facebook. In honor of the 4th, what is your favorite U.S.-made product that you sell? Also, what did a typical 4th look like for you guys growing up?
So there's not a lot of true U.S.-made products. There's a lot of U.S. companies that have unfortunately shifted their manufacturing overseas.
Well, it's not necessarily unfortunately. It's
I'm saying it's
a matter of
US,
modern economics.
It is. U.S. used to be a very strong manufacturing company. It just isn't as economical to do it here anymore.
Or what a lot of times happens too is you have products that are partly made in the U.S., but there's other components and stuff that are from all over the world.
It might be assembled in the U.S.
Right. Like I'm thinking Edison. You know, the pen itself is completely made in the U.S.
But the materials
but
are
the resin
sourced,
might come somewhere else. The
like
nibs come
Italy.
from Germany, you know, that kind of thing. So like parts and pieces are sourced from various
Sure, but as
places.
far as like where the like labor, where the manufacturing actually happens, there's very few. I mean, Edison would be one.
Yep.
Noodler's ink is one. The
Right.
pens are
one of those where
sourced
parts are all
over-
over the place. A lot of parts do come from the U.S. Nathan does a lot of the work himself in like the QC and inspection and final tuning and
But they
stuff
are
in the
assembled
U.S. But they're made
outside.
in India. I mean, he's made no hints about that.
But the ink is made in America. Private
Right.
Reserve used to be made in America. Now it
Yeah.
actually is made in Slovenia, where basically all the cartridges in the world are made. It's kind of
Right.
crazy. I don't like understand it, but I guess there's like a factory that does
basically,
cartridges.
basically all of the fountain pen ink cartridges in the world come from Slovenia.
So now, like they found they were able to match, the inks and produce them there.
Yeah.
Since the founder of PR passed away last year, they've
Yeah.
had some changes.
Yeah.
So I think that's when they switched to the 66 mil bottles. Now the boxes say
It says bottled in the US.
in the U.S. So what
instead of
happens is
made
they
in the
make it in
US.
like big quantities, and then
And
it
we
comes.
only found out about this very recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it used to be made in the U.S. Now it's bottled in the U.S. So it comes in the big quantities, and they put it in the individual bottles.
Yeah.
So Noodlers is like the last ink that we know that's like made. Now there are smaller
Well,
ones like
smaller,
Organic
Organic
Studio.
I think that's the only one that I
Yeah,
can think of.
Scribble's doing a little bit, but he's
It's
discontinuing
it's
his
kinda out
line.
of the business, yeah. So,
So-
that's about it. That's all I know.
Then as far as pens
Uh-huh.
go, gosh, there's all these American companies that now go overseas. Schaefer's overseas. Yeah.
I mean, I wrote down every brand that I could think of here that was U.S. Aston Leather, that is completely U.S.
It is.
They use U.S. made leather, U.S. Craftsmen that are
Yep, in New
U.S.
York.
citizens and everything. Yeah, so Aston Leather is
Knock
100%
pen
U.S.
cases.
Knock
yeah.
pen cases, that's U.S. Field Notes, that is also
Oh,
U.S.
absolutely.
Very American. Monteverde, we talked about, is owned. A lot of the design and a lot of the final packaging and stuff like
But
that.
the manufacturing does
The
not
actual
happen in the
manufacturing
US.
does not happen in the U.S. Private Reserve, we talked about
Quo
that.
Vadis does some assembly in the U.S., but the
That's
paper
true.
comes from
Paper comes
France.
from France. That's Clairefontaine. But yeah, Quo Vadis and all that.
There's some assembly work that happens in the U.S.
Right.
So,
Quiver,
yeah.
Quiver as well is a U.S. company. I think they use craftsmen from Mexico, so it's very close to the U.S.
Yeah.
Some
of our
Stillman and Burn is bound in the U.S. I don't know where their paper comes from necessarily. The Goulet products that we make here, technically that's U.S. made.
Well, the pen flush we make here
Pen
for
flush,
sure.
brass sheets, mylar, micromesh.
We all source those from U.S. companies. I don't.
No, we don't outsource those.
No, we source them.
We source
I
the
said,
products.
I said source.
You said outsource.
No, I said source. We source them.
We're gonna check the video. You said outsource.
No, we source.
You said outsource.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So all the products that we're making here.
The question was, what's our favorite U.S. made product?
Yeah.
So
this one, come on, especially
my
given
my first reaction was Noodler's Bay State Blue. It's the quintessential controversial
yes, but
American
no.
ink.
And so I was like, no, not quite. We can do better.
We're
Noodler's
close.
Liberty's Elysium.
That's the one.
We helped to design it. We worked with Nathan to come up with this ink. It's themed around Patrick Henry.
The labels, it's
We literally live 10 minutes
American
from
blue
Scotchtown,
color.
from Patrick Henry, birthplace and everything. So it's we are all about some Liberty's Elysium. And given the whole nature of Liberty and the 4th of July and all that stuff, it's super fitting.
So what
Yeah.
did you do on the 4th growing up?
Honestly, I can't remember. I don't think it was that big of a deal in my family. All of my extended family, my parents are from up north, so we never had any extended family around here. So it was kind of we might have grilled or done something like that, but it was never a huge kind of get-together thing.
We always had fireworks. We live, my parents' neighborhood is right across the street from the high school. So they would often have fireworks at the high school. So sometimes we'd go on the main road and kind of watch from there. Sometimes we could see it from our deck.
Yeah.
There's usually a cul-de-sac. My parents are in a neighborhood, so there's usually a cul-de-sac potluck. That's been a recent thing.
Yeah.
People go in and out of the neighborhood. My parents have been there for 27 years now. So yeah, there's usually, sometimes we have family in town, but there's usually some kind of potluck.
Right.
And my mom almost always makes her chocolate peanut butter cake. So it's a chocolate cake with peanut butter frosting.
That is kind of weird that that's a 4th of July tradition.
Yeah, I don't...
You don't think of 4th of July. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am a cake man through and through. When it comes to a celebration, cake
The chocolate
is
cake.
always the preferred choice.
The chocolate cake has coffee in it, and it's delicious. And the peanut, it's all made from scratch.
See,
it's
I'm
so
surprised,
delicious.
being a pie lover, you would not have advocated more for like apple pie. 4th of July, American.
I didn't like pie growing up.
Really?
Yeah. I liked pumpkin pie.
I was not aware of this.
I liked pumpkin pie as a teenager. I didn't like try other pies. And
Really?
again, you know my thing with pie. I love apple pie so much that I choose pie. However,
That's true.
most of the time I like cake.
Right.
So like that chocolate peanut butter cake next to apple.
That cake is amazing.
Next to apple pie, oh, it's close. Apple pie just edges it out a little bit. So yeah, it's usually fireworks. Sometimes they would have. I was from Centerville, Virginia, so they'd have Centerville Day. Sometimes they did in the fall. Sometimes it's July 4th. So it's like a big like craft bazaar thing. Not just crafts. There's a lot of crafts there, but they'd have moon bounces and bands and again hot dogs and hamburgers and all that good stuff too.
Sure.
So there's always fireworks involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neat. So there you go.
Food.
That's our story.
Food and fireworks.
I remember seeing like fireworks and stuff like at the local like baseball stadium and stuff like that a couple times as a kid. Yeah. But see, you grew up in a neighborhood, like a suburban neighborhood. I grew up much more rural, so there really wasn't like there weren't kids in my age in our neighborhood and that kind of stuff. It was like very rural. All right.
And we'd always wear red, white, and blue.
All right, Louis M on Facebook. I recently got a Namiki Falcon. I wonder what is the true purpose of the shaker inside the converter.
The doohickey.
The doohickey, as I called it in my video. For starters, the pen itself goes through a lot of ink rapidly, so ink won't remain there for a long period of time. The converter is small, so it won't carry enough ink for the purpose of a shaker. And lastly, the shaker must be taking up precious ink volume. I just don't get it. Brian, if Rachel makes an appearance, do let her answer this question.
Oh, okay. So it's called an agitator. It helps prevent air bubbles from forming in the converter, so that way you don't get air gaps that make the way the paper to prevent the ink from flowing. Oh, these technical questions are tough. We
This is my world, honey.
We nickname it a doohickey, but it's an agitator. You don't have to have it. It actually didn't used to come that way.
Right.
It's not required.
It was like 2 years ago they started doing that.
So if the capacity is really important to you, you could definitely take it out. However, you run the risk of those bubbles by not having that agitator in there. There are risk, whatever. But then air bubble would be taking up space.
Well, basically what happens, that converter is really wide, and for whatever reason, the ink tends to hang up in the back of that converter. So you'll start to use it, the ink will kind of draw out at the beginning, and then the rest of it will kind of hang out up there. And so you'll have to like shake it or whatever to try to get the ink to drop back down. That agitator does a perfect job. Check out the video I've got. It's called Pilot Con 50 Converter Doohickey. That's the name of the video.
You can also try Con 20.
Con 20 would also
It has a slightly larger ink capacity, right?
Yep.
Me personally, I like the Con 50 over the Con 20 because I like to see the level of ink I have left.
Yeah, I get it.
So I can see how much is left.
You can refill a cartridge too. The cartridge will get you the same ink capacity as the Con 20.
There's no agitator in the cartridge, is there?
There is not.
Platinum has a little ball in theirs.
They do.
Yeah. Anyway.
They do. But
Okay.
yeah, check out the video that I've got also called Pilot Converter Ink Capacities.
That's a good overview of all the pilot
It's
converters.
a good overview of the cartridge, the cleaning converter, the Con 20, the Con 50, and the Con 70.
Isn't it a part 1 and part 2?
I don't remember.
I think it's 2 parts.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, check out both parts.
Number
That
12.
covers all that stuff. But basically, you're losing about 0.1 milliliter with that agitator in there.
Not that
That's
much.
your sacrifice out of 0.7. So
Okay, that is
it's
a
like
good amount.
15% that you're giving up with that agitator.
Number 12.
Ain't nothing to sneeze at.
Number 12. Moving along.
That's
Come on. No.
That phrase is not, it's not something to sneeze at, has always confused me a little bit. I say it a lot.
Until our toddlers started doing it.
Well, yes, our kids definitely,
What you?
our kids we'll be playing with them and holding and hugging them, and they'll just like turn and be like, blah, right on your face. And you're just like, what is okay.
You just sneezed at me.
Yeah. Other than that situation, though, I can't think of anyone who sneezes at something.
Move on.
Okay, anyway.
Number 12.
Nichole B on Facebook. Speaking of noodlers, any chance that GPC will carry the broad, non-flex noodlers replacement nib or a number 5 replacement nib of any brand for the nib creeper?
I'll answer this. So the broad non-flex noodlers nib, it's 3 times the price. It's $6 a nib. There weren't a lot made. It's not going to be continued to be made.
Right.
So we thought, you know, there's across all the sizes we sell, broad is not the most popular. It's probably
the least popular.
It's the least popular, generally speaking.
It is the most not popular.
Absolutely. So we, you know, weighed everything out, and we just decided that the demand probably wasn't there, especially for a limited item that's going to be going away.
Yeah.
So we decided not to carry
Did
it.
you mention the price?
3 times price, $6 each. Yes. Part of it's the tipping material. There's more of it, so you know, more labor. All
Those
that
nibs
stuff.
are pretty close to cost, so it's not big margins on that nib for sure.
Now, as far as
so
the
tipping actually matters in the cost of that pen.
Number
Nib.
5 for the creeper. The creeper actually takes a number 2 nib, which is smaller.
Not 5.
So it's smaller. There are number 2 nibs out there. I don't know of anyone currently mass producing them, so I think you're going to have to go vintage to find a
There's
replacement
a
for
ton
that.
of vintage ones, which you can get at shows and stuff. I mean,
I'm not aware of any currently
we don't know
modern.
We don't know of any modern manufacturer that provides number 2 nibs.
Right. Now, thinking to that question, number 5 nibs in general, it is something we've considered adding to our Goulet nib line. There are a lot of pens that do take a number 5 nib. Haven't quite weighed out if we think there'd be enough demand. To make Goulet nibs, we have very high minimums, especially like even just per size.
Right.
So it really, really has to be worthwhile.
Well,
Otherwise, we'd be sitting on those things for years.
The initial order is really big, and so it's a huge investment for us up front. And then the ongoing orders and the minimums are really large too. So it's like we have to really know that they're going to be popular. And the thing that's tough about those nibs is because they're a different brand than what's being used in the pen.
It's hard to advertise.
You know, it's hard to advertise because we're an authorized retailer for all the pens we sell. So
Don't avoid warranties.
If we go saying, oh yeah, put a Goulet nib in your blank, whatever pen, you know, I'm trying to think of what pen has a number 5.
There's a bunch of Monteverdes.
Yeah, like Monteverde, Artistic Crystal. You know, okay,
Coquito.
so yeah, right. So if you're like,
a couple Twisbees.
yeah, totally, put it in there, and then you have like a flow issue or something like that. Monteverde is not going to cover that in the warranty because you replace the nib. Like, who in their right mind would do that? And for us, it's
some
like
of the Pilot pens have a number 5.
And for us, it's like, well, we hope it's going to work well, but just because it's the same size doesn't mean the feed and stuff is going to match up, and I don't know that the slit is going to be cut properly for that feed. Like, the feed and the nib relationship kind of makes a difference in terms of how it writes. It's a little bit different with the number 6 nibs because we really brought those in for the Noodlers pens.
Yeah.
And we talked to Nathan, we tested them thoroughly.
And he designed the Noodlers pens to be used with other
nibs.
interchangeably
with other nibs. And
very
we
symbiotic
talked to him
relationship.
beforehand. We're like, hey, this is what we're thinking of doing. He's like, great, go for it. Go ahead, tout it, do whatever you want. So it's like, even with the number 6 nibs, it's kind of like, they're made for the Noodlers pens. If you're using them in other pens, good luck. You know, like you're kind of on your own.
Sometimes the feed nib, you know, won't quite work.
Yeah,
so.
but we've heard really good stuff about just about every pen that uses them. So it's like, okay, maybe the number 5 could be the same way, but
I don't think there's as much demand, and so we've had trouble
really
just
tough.
buying the minimums. But we're considering it.
Yeah.
If this is something you strongly, and a lot of pen kit makers have asked for it too.
I mean, technically, there are number 5 nibs out there. Like Edison sells number 5 nibs for the Perlette
and the Mina.
And some of those other things. So technically, you could make that happen that way.
Number 13. Moving along.
But again, you're mixing brands, so warranties are void at that point. Okay. Jessica B. Did she already ask a question? No, I'm getting my letters mixed up. Okay, Jessica B on Facebook. All right, tangential to the cake or pie, which naturally already came up in our conversation, which is funny. Hamburgers or hot dogs?
I'll answer that real quick. For me, hamburger all the way. I like a hot dog once in a while to kind of vary it up, but hamburger all the way. All the toppings you can put on, all the customizations, just the
customization, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go, like, there's this local place we've been going, and you know, pick all your own toppings. You could go barbecue, and you could have barbecue sauce with fried onion straws and all this stuff. You could go, like, you know, do like the fresh mozzarella with pesto and like red peppers and that sort of stuff. You could go Mexican. I had one the other day, you know, put guacamole and tortilla strips and salsa.
Like avocado and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, bacon cheeseburgers, and you just...
How about like barbecue sauce and pineapple, like fresh grilled pineapple and all that?
Pineapple,
like,
period.
Yeah.
Hot dogs are great. They have
fried
a place.
egg. Throw an egg and bacon on a burger?
You can't do all that stuff with hot dogs.
Yes.
Hot dogs, I don't like mustard. I don't like relish. I only like ketchup and only a little bit. So hot dogs for me are just, they're good. I like a hot dog once in a while.
I do like some bratwurst though.
Yeah, it's all you. Kibas is okay. Hot dog, or sorry, hamburger all the way.
I'm like, for me, I'm like, why not both? You know, I'll have one of each, sure. But like hot dogs, it's like I want like Angus hot dog or like a
Angus
really
beef.
high quality hot dog. Like it's a hot dog, so it's
Get
already
those,
like not the best meat. Like
ballpark.
could at least get the best of the worst meat.
The
You know
ballpark
what I mean?
Angus beef bun size, and finding them on sale.
Yeah,
is like,
we do
yes.
like those ones. Yeah.
Okay, so there's another part of the question.
I'm all about some hamburger too. The hamburger is definitely my choice.
Is it possible to do something like add an O-ring to a nib creeper to keep it from drying out so much between uses?
Yeah.
I've heard of the sponge in the cap trick, but it's a demonstrator. So.
Yep. Okay. I mean, this is something that some people do on their pens, is they'll add an O-ring around like the grip section or whatever so that the cap, when it is twisted on,
So
will
the
kind of
creeper
seal
dries
up.
out quickly?
The creeper kind of dries out. You know,
The cap doesn't have a good seal?
the cap doesn't have the best of seals. It doesn't have like an inner seal that wraps around the nib or anything like that. It's a pretty minimalist pen.
Yeah.
It's a $14
I mean, $14
pen, piston filling. It's a pretty basic pen. But then on top of that, it's got that feed that's carved like wide open to be able to feed that hungry, thirsty, whatever flex nib. So you got kind of double things against you there, where basically it's going to be more prone to drying out. That's not really a secret. You know, this pen's been out for years now, and a lot of people have said that. It's kind of thing like, especially if you're in a really
I don't really
dry,
know how an O-ring would work.
it wouldn't work on that pen really. That's kind of the thing that I'm getting at with all this explanation. That particular pen, there's really not enough room in the grip section. There's not enough of a step there for an O-ring to kind of sit and seal up that pen. So, you know, you really can't do that. One trick that you can do is you can put it in a Ziploc bag to keep it kind of sealed up. So it's almost like a little humidor of sorts. Well, no, actually, the thing you're talking about here, the sponge in the cap, that literally is like a humidor. So you're cutting a little piece of sponge, shoving it in the cap of that pen, wetting the sponge, and that keeps moisture in the cap of the pen.
Yeah, I used to have that in an acoustic guitar case. Like, there's this little thing like this wet sponge that would like kind of hang off the strings, go in the inside, so that way it wouldn't dry out and get out tune and everything.
Same concept. Well, I mean, different use, but same kind of thing.
Number 14.
Yep. Well, first off, one thing I will say is that...
Sorry, I'm trying to help you move things along. We're never going to get through all these questions.
Let me cover the question. Okay, so, yes, it is less of an issue with the nib creepers that have come out in the last couple of years. The original ones used to have holes in the caps.
That is even worse.
Then it was worse. So it's not as bad then. I don't know which version that you have here, Jessica, but if you have an older version, it could be that you could try plugging up that hole with what? I don't know, because it's clear, so you're going to be able to see whatever you plug up the hole with. But
epoxy?
Anyway, epoxy would work.
Hot glue?
The AHAB seals a lot better. I hear less of an issue with drying out with the AHAB than I do with the nib creeper. All right. Angel L, an email, said, if you could learn any calligraphy script, Gothic, copperplate, foundational, etc., what would it be and why? So for me, I haven't really pursued any of these yet. I think they're really cool. I have mad respect for people that do that kind of calligraphy stuff. I have never really tried it myself, so I can't really say like this is definitely the one I want. The one I think is really cool, I mean, I really like copperplate, but Spencerian to me I think is the coolest.
It is
very
cool.
scripty.
The flexy.
You know, some of the people that have sent us letters here before have done some really good Spencerian, and it's like mind-blowing.
For me, I more dig the modern calligraphy. The stuff you see on like Pinterest or whatever these days. It's really more of a creative free flow. There's definitely like some techniques and some, you know, a style to it, but it's more individualistic, a little more handwriting-esque, and just like it's like graphic art or graphic design, but on paper. It's just, I don't know, I think it's really cool. Like, that's what I would do. And I think it's like a young female thing these days. It's
definitely
very
Pinterest
trendy.
kind of thing.
It's very trendy.
Yeah.
So
I get it, though. It's
if I
cool.
had the time, I would like to learn that.
Yeah.
There's like Skillshare classes and stuff out there for it.
Yeah. So more of a modern adaptation.
It's probably a little easier to learn than like the Spencerian stuff.
Yeah,
I just don't think
definitely.
I have the control.
Yeah. It takes practice. Whatever you're doing takes tons of practice. All right. At Maya42646540 on Twitter. Hi, Brian. I'm thinking of buying a Lamy 2000. My mom thinks it's too much money. What do you think? What should I say to my mom? Well, this is a tough one. It is
First
kind
of
of an
all,
expensive
always
pen.
honor and respect your parents.
Yes, of course. We are parents ourselves. We would like our children to honor and respect us. Yes, so I guess it depends. It's hard to tell from your situation whether you are looking to buy it with your own money or whether you're asking your mom to buy it for you.
Or if you have a
That's a different
or if you have a
conversation.
history of losing pens
Well,
or
that's-
not taking good care of your pens.
That's the point I wanted to make. Trust here is huge. This is an expensive thing. It's like
You don't want to bring this pen
need
to high
to-
school.
you probably don't want to bring it to school because the risk of losing it or having it stolen or something like that is too high, personally. Trust is a big thing, so you got to prove that you're responsible enough to handle a pen that costs this much, whether you're buying it yourself or whether she's buying it for you.
Being a good steward.
She's probably afraid that you're going to lose it or somebody's going to take it from you, so you got to work with her on that relationship, help to build that trust in whatever way you can.
If you're, as I say, if you're in a position where you're asking your mom about whether you can buy something or not, you know, versus like someone who's, you know, out on their own, an adult, like then we're making some assumptions here about
Right.
like your age and your, you know, your
level of-
situation.
level of
If you,
freedom.
It's like if you had the money to buy it yourself and you could spend as you want, then this wouldn't be, you know, a question.
Right.
So
Right.
all these assumptions
But
in mind.
I'm of the thinking that even if you're under your parents' wings, I'll call it, you know, under their care, under their roof, and you're looking to buy something, even if it's with your own money and it's something you know, relatively expensive like this, and they are advising you against it, you should still probably heed their counsel, even though it's technically your money.
Unless you got a weird relationship.
I mean,
we're
with
making
something
some
like a
big
pen,
assumptions.
it's not as big a deal. With something like clothing or something, you know, music or something that could be more like controversial. I mean, the pen is basically like you might lose it or break it. It's not like a pen is going to have a bad influence on you or something like that.
No.
But
Well,
that's
they want to make sure you're using your money wisely. Like if you're choosing to buy a pen instead of saving for college or something, or
Right,
you know,
right.
you're going to mooch them for gas money later because you blew all your money on a pen.
But if you
I don't
really love to write, and this is a pen that you are going to value and cherish and could really help to, you know, do some creative stuff or whatever, like those are the kind of points that you need to make known.
I think if you show and you demonstrate you can take good care of what you already have, and show that you are responsible and all those things, and you know, you didn't discuss the money, but maybe, you know, meet halfway, see if you could each pay half or something, you know, have some teeth in it.
Right, absolutely.
And you know what? Just wait till you're 18. Otherwise, you know.
But I think if you're mature about it and you talk to your mom, you could probably work it out. It's not like $1,000 pen that's so
No.
out there. I mean, it's
That's
definitely
a
an
lot
investment.
of money for someone still living at home.
Well, it depends. I mean, I spent a lot more money on that than on a lot stupider things when I was a teenager and whatnot.
Car stereo stuff.
I mean, that was an investment.
And
all right,
no, the
that
tool-
was an investment in my social status.
No,
At
it was
my-
not.
No, it wasn't.
Your tools were an investment, though.
I did. I was like 15
You were like a
years
junior,
old.
like Sears craftsman.
I was
member.
I was a sophomore. I was 15 years old, and my best friend and I would go to like Sears or whatever, and I would literally buy hammers and stuff like that, and screwdriver sets and socket sets.
But
and
he
things.
was like the most.
Because I was like, you know, I was into car stereo stuff and other things, but I didn't go to the movies and I didn't buy a lot of music or whatever. But I was like, I'm going to buy tools because I'm really into them, and these are something I'm going to have with me forever. I still
he
use
did.
like the same hammers I bought when I was 15. I was like, this is going to be a really good investment. I'm going to be really glad
that
when
was
I'm a homeowner
good.
that I
the
have a lot
car
of tools.
stereo, not so much.
Well, I don't really have any of that stuff anymore. So that was, you know, I was still a teenager, but
Anyway,
do still love a bumping stereo.
number
But
15.
we could really rock some VeggieTales and with a good stereo in our car, honey. We've listened to like the same VeggieTales CD for like 3 years now.
The top 25 Sunday school songs or something.
Yeah, you parents of young children will know.
It's been on so long I don't even notice it
We
anymore.
don't even hear it anymore. Like we'll go on a date night or something, and we'll have the VeggieTales in there, and we're like listening to it and kind of like humming along, and 20 minutes go by, and we're like, whoa,
Wait, why would we listen
wait,
to this?
let's turn this off. Like we don't even hear it anymore. Anyway.
Number 16.
All right. Dale Sharpe on Ink Nouveau said, I would like to hear about the ink drop theme and ink selection process. Also, any friendly in-office competitions, like maybe which employee's favorite ink drop selection sells the best.
So ink drop's an interesting process. We've been doing
Yeah.
this it'll be 4 years in September. It's actually getting really difficult for a couple reasons. Number one is the number of members we have now. We haven't shared the number of members in a really long time.
We haven't, and we'll still keep it secret for now.
But it's a lot. A lot more than when we started out. So being able to procure ink in the quantities we need to do up the samples for the number of members we have, that can be difficult. There are certain brands like we flat out can't do because the distributor doesn't keep enough by the time they get more from the manufacturer. Like we're getting to the point now we're planning ink drop about 6 months out. We're actually a little bit behind.
3 to 6 months, yeah.
Yeah, we have some for the last half of the year or last quarter of the year we haven't finished yet. But it takes that long to work with our distributors and manufacturers to get the amount of ink produced because often these are colors that aren't good.
Well, yeah,
they might not be a good seller. They just don't keep that much on hand.
That's the thing is it didn't used to be as hard because we had fewer members and we were selecting some of the more popular inks that are normally kept in higher quantities by our distributors.
I say that the selection is another piece. That's the whole trying not to repeat colors.
Right.
It makes it a lot harder to come up with creative themes that tie these colors together. We're getting to the point now where we're going to start repeating some colors. Yeah. Not like within a year or two, but like now that we've been 4 years, like we'll pick some up from that first or that second year. There's some like sometimes we come up with a great theme, like shaders or something like that, but there are like iconic colors we can't use because we used them too recently. Yeah. You know, like how can you have a shading thing without like Apache Sunset or, you know, things like that. So we're getting to that point again. Coming up with, sorry, I just touched the microphone. Yeah. So we're tapping, you know, our team's resources, the creative resources to come up with ideas for themes. A lot of the themes we did in this last year were ideas from team members. We don't really have like a competition per se. One thing we have talked about during competition is each team member has like an ink sample package that's like their favorite inks. We're a bit behind. We got a lot of folks who haven't picked their colors yet. Other folks who want to update theirs. It hasn't been like a high priority.
But honestly, it's not really that fair of a competition because we came out with ours first. So like some of the best colors, in our opinion, are ones that we chose for our package set.
No, they can use. There's no rule saying you.
Oh, that's true. That's true. We're not exclusive.
So we've talked about like everyone setting up their package sets and then having like a week-long or month-long competition. Whoever sells the most in that time period would like win.
We've talked about.
But then we like run out of stock or something, or someone's a different price, and it's like how do you weigh all that? So I mean, we definitely are open to ink drop ideas. We have more ideas for the future. There are also certain brands that. Yeah, like the I think I already mentioned, like just the consistency or being able to get the quantities we need. It's just it's difficult.
that's always a challenge. There's a lot of logistics behind the scenes that make it
and cost and
challenge.
You know things like that too. So it's definitely something we plan on having for a long time. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Number 17.
Yes. GimmieCookiee on Ink Nouveau said, I love some of these names.
I know.
Do you have any insight on why pen companies don't make full flex nibs anymore? From the popularity of semi-flex pens, such as the Pilot Falcon and the Noodlers flex pens, but that pen is a full flex. I would have thought that there is a huge demand for modern gold flex nibs.
So here's what's interesting is when we first
we get asked this a lot.
When we first started out, flex pens were like, no one was talking about them at all. Honestly, like Noodlers was disruptive in coming out with the original nib creeper and then the Ahab and the Conrad.
Price. I mean, the Falcon was out at that time.
Yeah, but the Falcon wasn't.
That was kind of it.
It wasn't even talked about as much as is now. I think part of it was that crazy video that went viral that brought awareness.
But even still, like, I was researching flex pens in the earliest days of this business, and it was either like vintage stuff that was really expensive because it was hard to find anything flexible, or the Falcon. It was kind of like if you want a flex nib, you got to spend $140 and get a Falcon.
So I think most entry-level fountain pen users, you know, it's getting into that price range where it's maybe a grail pen and not something they have. So the average fountain pen, especially a newer enthusiast, wouldn't have a flex pen or exposure and finding the right vintage thing and all that. Once Noodlers came out with theirs, it just the exposure it brought, the awareness it brought to the masses. Like now it was like a flex pen for the people.
That was Nathan's goal in doing it. I don't think you realize, but Nathan doesn't make anything on his pens.
No.
He doesn't. It is
sometimes he loses money. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's truly an ideological product that he makes because he is trying to prove as a business case that there is demand for these products, and he's trying to incentivize other pen companies to develop products to compete with his.
Yeah, that's his hope.
That's his end goal with that.
It's just just trying to bring it to the masses.
Yeah.
So, why don't they make more? I think they either haven't caught on. I think there aren't nib manufacturers set up to make these. Like Yovo, where we get our Goulet nibs, like they don't make flex nibs. They would to redo the tooling, the molds, everything they need to do to be able to come up with like this brand new type of nib that flexes the way it needs to, that has the feed to keep up with the ink flow needed for a flex nib. It's really the whole
designing a whole new thing, honestly, at that point.
And when you talk into like new molds or new things like that, you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars per mold. It's insane how much manufacturing costs to like come up with like a brand new thing.
Well, that you're talking about, that's just like a mold for the body of a pen.
Right.
Like an injection molded plastic pen, like hundreds of thousands of dollars to set those up. I mean, yeah, that's a whole other level of stuff. To make making nibs and all that kind of stuff, it is a whole process.
There's only a handful of nib manufacturers in the world out there now. There's a couple brands who do, proprietaries, like Pilot makes their own. Platinum, Nichole is kind of part of that. They do their own thing. Sailor makes their own. When you get into the German, they're pretty much, a lot of them can be traced back to, Bach or Yovo or, Schmidt. I don't know if Schmidt and Bach are kind of, I don't know. There's
Schmidt
very
doesn't make their own, though. They get them from somebody.
Okay, so there's very few out there.
Yeah.
So it might be a matter of time. It might just be that the economics aren't there for the manufacturers to take this on.
The thing to keep in mind, though, is like we're deep in the fountain pen world, and it seems like flex pens are so obvious. Look at all this demand, and within the fountain pen community, there's a lot of talk about flex nibs. But the fountain pen community is like this much of the writing community in general.
That's true.
So fountain pens are this small fraction that some pen companies don't even really take into consideration that much. So flex pens are this much in terms of worldwide distribution and manufacturing of these major pen brands. So most of them aren't even, flex pens aren't even on their radar. And if you met with the president of whatever major pen company you said, I really want flex nibs, they'd probably be like, what nibs? Because they're MBAs and they're not really into the products.
Also, we're hoping to get some more of the specialty pilot nibs into the U.S., like the FA and all that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, so it's really just not as common as we all feel that it is when you look at the broader community.
It's probably more complicated to make than we all realize.
Yeah.
Number 18.
All right. Kate Dodge on YouTube.
I'm getting hungry for lunch.
Yeah, I'm getting hungry too. Kate Dodge on YouTube. So far, I've only used Noodlers inks because I like the bulletproof aspect. I would like to try other brands, and I want to know what other inks have similar bulletproof properties. This is a really good general question.
Highly waterproof, permanent inks.
So, she clarified, mostly something fade and water resistant.
There you go.
I'm also looking for a purple ink that meets this criteria. Any thoughts? We get asked about permanent purple inks a lot. So the first things that we should clarify here is that bulletproof is a Noodler's specific term. And that is a term that really talks about fraud resistance.
Well, it basically implies the waterproofness and takes it a step beyond.
Right.
To talk about
bleach resistant and resistant towards oven cleaners and industrial cleaners that are check washing chemicals and stuff like that.
Tools of the fraudster.
Yeah, and that really is kind of only Noodlers. Like Nathan Tardif himself really kind of just takes that to the extreme far more than anybody else. Nobody else really has that on their radar. There are other inks with water resistance, though, and I'm glad you clarified that, Kate, because that opens it up to basically anything beyond Noodlers.
So there's a lot of pigmented and iron gall inks from some other brands.
Right, which really the iron gall is not like the traditional iron gall. It's a modern formulation. So you've got Rohrer & Klingner has two inks, Salix and Scabiosa. Those are great inks.
They
very water resistant.
Both Rohrer & Klingner and Diatramentis make some document inks. The Diatramentis document inks, we have them on the way. So they should be coming soon, but those are, a range of permanent inks. We haven't tried them yet, but just throwing a little nugget out there. There are some other Rohrer & Klingner.
Are the Rohrer & Klingner document, is that a fountain pen ink or is that a calligraphy?
I believe, it is. We got a sample of it here. It's sitting on my desk to try.
Okay.
So anyway, Platinum has their carbon black and their pigmented blue sepia.
Pigmented sepia. Sepia.
Sepia. And rose red, which is really like a pink. But those
Right.
are pigmented inks. Safe for fountain pens, pigmented for fountain pens, but
A little higher maintenance.
Along
still
those
good.
lines, the Sailor Nano. So that's
Yeah.
the Guro and the Seiboku.
Seiboku and Kiwaguro. Oh my gosh.
Guro?
I can't remember. Sailor
Kiwaguro?
dropped us last year in a interesting situation, which I feel like I've talked about a lot in recent Q&As.
That's all right. We don't need to mull over that.
But yeah,
the Sailor makes
we haven't kept up with Sailor.
Their Nano series are micro pigmented
Right.
permanent inks.
There's also Organic Studio has a couple of water resistant
Pigmented.
inks. Yeah. So there's Accident, Aristotle, and Isaac Newton.
Aristotle, I believe, is iron gall, modern iron gall.
Yeah.
Diamine Registrars, blue black. That's the
That one is a
modern iron
little
gall.
heavier iron gall. Yeah. Namiki Blue actually is a very water resistant
It's
blue.
highly water resistant. I wouldn't call it permanent, but I would call it
but
highly water
it's
resistant.
definitely water resistant. I did a review of that.
There are other
years
inks out
ago.
there that are highly water resistant as well that we haven't really tested fully.
Right. Parker Quink has a permanent black and blue black.
They're not. It's
they're
really in comparison to washable blue, which is
Right.
more like the ink eradicator type thing.
Right.
So when I talk purple inks, there's the Rohnklinger Scabiosa, which we talked about, the iron gall purple. And then if you
kind of the only I think that I can think is the only non-Noodlers water resistant purple.
You could mix platinum pigmented blue and rose red to make a purple. I've never tried.
You probably could.
They're both those
could.
I would say are mixable because they're similar family and pH and all that sort of stuff. So you could try that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you want to, within Noodlers, you have Kung De Cheng and Lorraine Mauve. Those are two that come to mind.
Yeah.
As bulletproof, waterproof purple inks.
Yeah. There's not a lot though.
Nope.
Not a lot of them.
19.
Kevin L. on Facebook, are Lamy nibs being ground more precisely than in years past? They seem truer to their size designation with less wiggle room between fine and medium, for instance.
Haven't really heard much.
For me, there's been less of a distinction between extra fine and fine.
They're
in
very
the past.
similar.
They can be, but
They're not like as far apart as fine and medium are.
right.
I think he's right. There is more of a distinction, or he's saying the less of it. I don't know.
He's saying between the fine and the medium, there's been less, but lately it's gotten better.
Yeah, I'd say there's less
We haven't been
distinction between
told-
extra fine and fine, and
we
then
haven't
fine
been
and medium's a bigger
told-
jump.
We haven't been told that anything's been changed, but then again, why would they really think to tell us? It's always possible that they could have changed something.
Proprietary nib grinding process.
The thing you have to, the thing it's very proprietary, and the thing you have to remember too is that there's a lot of handwork involved in doing this nib grinding and tuning and stuff like that. There's a lot of it that's machined and automated and stuff like that, but there's a lot of hand tuning, especially with the extra fines. So depending on who's there and how much experience they have and so on, the inconsistency is the human element of it, which is the blessing and the curse, So that's probably where some of it's coming from. It may be that in recent years, somebody's been there 5 years instead of 1, and maybe they have more experience. I don't know. We don't really have any insight into that at all, but I imagine that that's a factor. Okay.
3 more questions.
All right.
My stomach's like, whew.
Yeah.
I know.
I got a big salad waiting for me. I'm ready. All right, Garth M on Facebook. Hi guys, loving Q&A. I was wondering if you knew why we don't see more monotone gold-plated nibs like the one on the TWSBI Micarta, which is discontinued. It seems that the only ones available are two-tone. Sorry, I had to throw in the discontinued part there because I was like, that's not available now. But
the Kaweco Classic Sport has a monotone gold-plated steel nib.
It does.
I don't really know why. I know that silver is more trendy than gold.
Yellow gold is definitely not as in as it used to be.
The two-tone look is cool because it really goes with either. So you could put it on a pen that would go with either clip.
I think that's why a lot of people like it.
Maybe gold's expensive, and even just the amount of plating. Like, you think about mass production, if you really add up
I can't imagine.
I don't know.
There's so little actual gold that's used in the plating process. I can't imagine that a little sliver of it around the edge of the nib would be
The question is whether we knew why. The answer is no, I don't know why. It's just these are all hypotheses.
My guess, putting on like a manufacturer's hat, is that if you make a two-tone nib, you can put it on a pen with gold trim, you can put it on a pen with rhodium trim. It'll look good either way.
Maybe.
That would be my guess. So you're not having to offer 2 different nibs based on the thing, or you can change up the clips to match the material better and not have to have it clash with the nib.
There just aren't a lot of steel nib pens that have gold trim. There just aren't a lot.
Well, that's true.
So there's just less out there in general. The Quaco Classic Sport is the one that comes to mind that's all gold.
I'm thinking like the platinum pens, those are all gold, right? The 3776.
No, but those are gold nib pens.
Oh,
We're talking
you're talking about gold
steel.
stainless. Well, it wasn't, he didn't say specifically stainless steel
Gold
nibs.
plated nibs.
Gold plated. Okay,
That implies
you're
steel.
right. You are correct.
Now there
You're
is the Platinum Balance that has a gold plated nib.
True. True.
So there
But yeah, you're right.
are
There's not a
some
ton
out
of
there.
them. There's not a ton of them.
But like the Goulet nibs are two-tone.
Right.
It's either polished steel or two-tone.
Right.
That's just how Yovo makes them. I don't think
Right.
it was an option to get all yellow gold. And maybe they just don't want it to be confused with like an actual gold nib. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. I imagine too it also has to do with the fact that the base metal, the stainless steel, is already that silver color. So
I don't
literally
know.
you just
We're just hypothesizing
you just put
at this
some
point.
gold plating on it and there it's two-tone. Whereas, you know, I don't know.
All right. We don't know.
All right, Ranger Smith on Ink Nouveau.
21.
This is just a random interesting question. I'm a national park ranger stationed at Crater Lake National Park, and I'm looking for an ink to match the stunning blue waters of the lake. Do you have any suggestions? Also, thank for all the great work you do and your team. Thank you. That's cool.
That you and your team do.
That you and your team do, yes. So I've never been to Crater Lake, but I looked up some pictures, and assuming Google didn't lie to me with its image search, I will say that it seems like a pretty like royal blue, you know, like cobalt kind of blue, like right there in that vein of like my favorite color,
Dark
blue. So to me, it looks like Pilot Iroshizuku Konpeki would be a good match.
A little lighter blue.
Noodler's blue.
That's a good blue.
PR American blue.
Oh, Noodler's blue, blue eel. That might be on my list too.
You've got 10 colors on your list already, dear. You need to stop it somewhere.
I know.
Noodler's Liberty's Elysium,
which is
may
also a
be
great
in
color.
there. Those colors are all pretty close to each other. Some a little darker, some a little lighter, but maybe depending on the depth of the lake, it may vary a little. I don't know. But there you go. Some options for you. And last question. We made it towards the end. Man, this is a long Q&A today.
I know.
All right. Gina, but it's probably Gina Rocks the World on YouTube. Hey, Brian, what are your top 5 favorite blue inks? And honestly, I did not have only 5. I had 6. I had an honorable mention. So I picked my 5 and then gave an honorable mention. Okay. So this was hard. So first thing I want to say is this is a toughie. Please don't hold these to me, 100%, because there's a lot of blues. I'm not joking. Like, I don't pick full bottles of every ink I use. Obviously, I use a lot of samples. But a lot of the ones that I'm like, yeah, I really want a full bottle of this. And I open up my drawer of all my inks, and they're like 90% of them are this like middle like royal blue type thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have too many blue inks. But it's just like my thing, I love the blue.
Noodler's blue is good too.
So yeah, I didn't even put Noodler's blue on my list. I could have, but I had to cut it somewhere. So Noodler's Liberty's Elysium right there. It's very, very similar to Noodler's blue.
What about Bay State blue? You don't have Bay State blue in your
I
list.
know. I had to cut it somewhere, okay? Liberty's Elysium was on there. Diamond Majestic Blue.
That's a good one.
That's a
Good
dark
red
one.
sheen.
Red sheen. Love it. Diamond Marine. That's kind of more of a turquoise, so I could have left that one out of there, but I love that color. Noodler's 54th, Massachusetts.
That's on my list
got
too.
That blue black in it. You got 12 now. Okay. Noodler's Navajo turquoise too. Great shader. Little bit different than Diamond Marine, a little darker, less of a green. And I gave an honorable mention to Iroshizuku Konpeki because I love that one, but it's very similar to Liberty's Elysium. All right, so we actually filled up the card. We're having to shoot an alternate ending because we maxed out our memory card and our camera battery is going to die. So
thank you so much for watching.
We have to end this thing.
Next week is open forum, July 11th. We have a bunch of questions, but feel free to submit some more. So we have a lot of good ones to choose from.
Thanks for making it to the end of this super long Q&A.
Enjoy your July 4th.
We had a great time.
If you're not, have a great weekend.
Probably trying to wrap this thing up. This battery's going to die like any second.
And right on.
Yeah, right on.